The man never thought a small job ad would change his life. But that night everything began. He was a quiet man, living alone in a small house on the edge of town. His life was simple. He worked long hours, came home tired, and ate cold food. Most nights he wished someone could cook for him. He was tired of instant meals and lonely dinners. One evening, after another long day, he opened his old computer and wrote a short ad. Looking for a cook, no experience needed, just honest work. Meals and payment included. He pressed post without much thought. He expected maybe a student, maybe a kind neighbor who wanted extra money. He never expected what came next. The next day passed quietly. No calls, no messages. He almost forgot about the ad. The night was cold. The wind was sharp against the window. He sat with a simple sandwich in his hand when a knock came at the door. At first he thought it was a mistake. Nobody visited him at night. The knock came again, louder this time. He put down the sandwich and walked slowly to the door. Something about the sound felt strange. Urgent, desperate. When he opened the door, his heart almost stopped. A woman stood there, not human. Her skin had a faint silver glow under the porch light. Her large eyes were tired, almost shining with hidden tears. In her arms she carried a small baby wrapped in a rough cloth. The baby was shivering, making weak sounds. For a long moment, silence filled the doorway. The man's mind went blank. He had seen strange news about aliens in far places, but never imagined one would stand right in front of his house. Holding a child, I came for the job, the alien mother whispered. Her voice was soft but filled with exhaustion. The man could not answer. His thoughts raced. Was this real? Was he dreaming? Why would an alien come to his small forgotten house? The ad was so simple, so human. How did she even read it? He glanced at the baby. The little one's thin fingers moved weakly, trying to hold the cloth tighter. Its small face looked pale, hungry, and cold. The man felt something heavy in his chest. I can cook, the alien woman said again, almost pleading. Please, let us in. The man hesitated. He thought of danger. He thought of strange stories about alien wars, about people disappearing. But he also thought of the baby, small, innocent, helpless. Finally, he stepped back. His voice was firm but quiet. Come inside. She entered quickly, clutching her child close. Her steps were weak, almost stumbling. She looked around the small house as if it was a palace. To her, even a poor human home was safety. The man closed the door, locking it with a soft click. He felt the weight of the moment. Something about this night was different. Something about this woman and her baby would change everything. The baby let out a soft cry. The alien mother's hands shook. She whispered calming sounds in a language he didn't understand. Her voice was strange, musical, but filled with pain. The man walked to the kitchen and pulled out bread, soup, and warm water. He placed them on the table. Feed the child first, he said. The alien mother looked at him, her eyes wide. She nodded quickly and sat down. She dipped the spoon into the soup and carefully fed the baby. The small one drank slowly, each sip bringing a little life back into its eyes. The man stood quietly watching. He could not believe this scene, an alien baby eating at his old wooden table. The woman's hands were gentle, but he noticed scars on her arms, deep marks that looked old and painful. She caught him looking and quickly pulled her sleeve down. Silence filled the room again, broken only by the baby's small sounds. Finally, the man asked, Why are you here? How did you find my ad? The alien mother did not answer directly. She lowered her eyes. We had nowhere else to go, she whispered. I saw your words. Honest work. Meals. Payment. I thought, maybe here we will not be chased. Chased. The word echoed in his mind like thunder. Who would chase a mother and a child? What danger followed them? The man wanted to ask more, but before he could, the lights outside flickered, shadows passed the window, and a sound came from the street. Slow, heavy footsteps. The alien mother froze, clutching her baby tightly, her eyes filled with fear. She whispered in a trembling voice, They found us. The man turned toward the door, his heart racing. He had no idea what kind of night he had just invited into his home. And so the story began. The house felt colder than usual. Even though the small heater hummed in the corner, the man stood near the doorway, his eyes fixed on the strange pair sitting at his table. The alien mother held her child close, rocking gently, but her gaze kept darting to the food he had set down. The soup's steam curled upward, carrying the smell of herbs. The baby's small nose twitched. Its eyes followed the steam, wide and unblinking. The man had seen hungry children before in the city, but this was different. There was something sharp, desperate, in the way the child's eyes locked on every movement of the spoon. The alien mother noticed his look and lowered her head. "He is hungry," she said softly. "Always hungry." Her voice trembled as if admitting weakness was painful. She lifted the spoon, guiding it carefully to the baby's lips. The child drank quickly, almost too quickly, choking for a second before swallowing again. The mother whispered calming sounds in her alien tongue. A strange melody filled the room, soft and sad. The man could not understand the words, but the meaning was clear. It was the voice of a mother begging her child to stay alive. The man's stomach twisted. He had posted a job for a cook, not to become part of someone else's desperate escape. Yet here they were, eating at his table as if fate had chosen him. "Eat something yourself," he said firmly. His voice came out harsher than he intended. The alien woman froze, looking at him with wide eyes. "No," she whispered. "He eats first, always him first." Her hands shook as she lifted another spoonful. The baby's small hands tried to grip the bowl, desperate to hold on to the source of warmth and life. The man noticed more now. The child's skin was marked with faint blue lines, veins glowing faintly under the surface as if carrying a strange light. The woman's eyes carried the same glow, dim but noticeable in the shadowed room. They did not look dangerous, only different. The man sat slowly at the other side of the table, his eyes never leaving them. "Where did you come from?" he asked quietly. She did not look at him. She focused on the baby, spoon after spoon. As if his question did not exist, finally she answered in a low tone. "Far." One word only, heavy with pain. The man leaned back in his chair. Something inside told him not to push. Not yet. She was hiding something, but her trembling hands and the scars on her arms already told part of the story. The baby finished the soup, letting out a tiny sigh before falling asleep against her chest. The alien mother looked down at the small face, her shoulders relaxing just slightly. For the first time since stepping inside, she seemed at peace, but only for a moment. Outside, a sound broke the silence, like a vehicle passing slowly on the road. The mother stiffened immediately, her body tense. Her arms tightened around the child. Her head turned sharply toward the window. The man noticed. "What is it?" he asked. She shook her head quickly. "Nothing," she lied. But her voice betrayed her. The man frowned. He stood and walked to the window, pulling the curtain just enough to peek. The street was empty, only the cold night wind moving trash along the pavement. Yet he could not shake the feeling that something unseen was out there, watching, waiting. When he turned back, the alien mother was already on her feet, her baby cradled tightly. Her eyes met his, and for the first time, he saw raw fear. It was more than hunger, more than exhaustion. This was the look of someone hunted. "You're safe here," he said, though he was not sure if it was true. Her lips parted as if to reply, but instead she lowered her head. A single tear slid down her silver cheek, catching the light. She whispered something in her own tongue, words filled with sorrow. The man took a step closer. "If you want me to trust you, you must tell me why you came." She hesitated, then shook her head again. "Not tonight, if I speak. It may bring them closer, them." The word cut the air like a blade. The man clenched his fists. His quiet life was already shattered. He wanted answers, but at the same time, he feared what those answers might mean. The alien mother slowly lowered herself back into the chair, placing the baby gently on the table. Wrapped in cloth, the child slept deeply, tiny breaths soft in the quiet room. She finally reached for the bread the man had placed earlier. She took a bite, her hands trembling so much that crumbs fell across the table. Watching her eat felt strange. She was alien, yet in this moment, she looked no different from any starving mother, desperate to keep strength for her child. The man sighed and sat back down. For now, questions could wait. What mattered was simple. The baby was fed, the mother was fed, and they were safe. At least for the night, but in his heart, he knew the silence outside was only temporary. He had seen the fear in her eyes when the sound passed on the road. He knew sooner or later, the shadows at the edge of his street would return. And when they did, he would have to choose. Would he hand them over to keep his life quiet? Or would he stand against whatever hunted them? A simple human against forces far greater than himself? For now he said nothing. He let the alien mother eat in silence, pretending the night was normal, pretending tomorrow would not bring danger. But in the stillness of that small house, with the alien child asleep and the mother trembling over bread, the man knew his life would never be normal again. The night dragged on, heavy and restless. The man had given the alien mother a blanket and an old chair by the fireplace. He thought she might rest, but she sat straight. Awake, her baby in her arms, her eyes moved around the room, studying every corner as if checking for danger. The man leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He had so many questions, but no clear place to begin. He watched the baby sleeping, tiny breaths rising and falling. Then his gaze moved to the mother's arms. Where the blanket had slipped, there they were again. Scars, long and uneven, carved deep into her skin. They looked more like brands than accidents. Patterns burned into flesh. He had seen scars from work, from fights, even from war, but never marks like these. They seemed deliberate. "You don't have to hide them," he said quietly. The alien woman stiffened. She pulled the blanket higher. Her voice was soft but sharp. "They are nothing. They don't look like nothing," he replied. His tone was calm, not accusing. "Someone did this to you?" She didn't answer, only looked down at her baby. Her silver skin caught the firelight. Her eyes dark pools of sorrow. The man sighed. "I only wanted to cook," he muttered to himself, "not whatever this is." Her head snapped up. "You regret letting us in?" He shook his head slowly. "No. But I need to know the truth. If someone is after you, if you bring danger to my home, I have the right to know." The woman hesitated. Her lips pressed tight. For a moment he thought she would refuse again. Then she whispered, "Chains, we lived in chains." The man froze. Her words hung heavy in the air. She adjusted the baby in her arms and continued, "They marked us, made sure we could never run far. They thought it would break us, but I broke the chains instead." Her voice was sharp now. Filled with quiet defiance, the man's chest tightened. He didn't know whether to admire her courage or fear what she had escaped from. "What about the baby?" he asked, her arms tightened protectively. "Born in the dark under their rule, I swore he would not grow there. I would not let his first steps be on cold stone floors. I would not let his first words be in a cage." The man looked at the child, sleeping so peacefully, and his throat went dry. He had lived a lonely life, but never a life of chains. The thought of a baby being born into such misery burned inside him. Before he could reply, a sudden creak echoed from the hallway. Both their heads turned sharply. The house was old, and noises at night were common. But this was different, slow, deliberate. The mother's eyes widened. She whispered something sharp in her own tongue and clutched her baby close. Her whole body was tense, ready to run. The man stepped forward, raising his hand. "Stay here," he said firmly. He grabbed a heavy wrench from his workbench near the wall and moved toward the sound. The hallway was dark. Shadows stretched long and twisted. He moved quietly, his heartbeat echoing in his ears. At the end of the hall, he saw nothing, only the old door swaying slightly from the wind through a cracked window. He let out a breath, but his nerves stayed tight. He returned to the living room where the mother still sat. Eyes wide. "Nothing," he said, "just the wind." But she didn't relax. She shook her head. "Not wind, they look for us." "Always." The man sat down again. Gripping the wrench tightly, he wanted to dismiss her fear, but something about her trembling voice made him believe. He studied her again, searching for answers. "How did you even find my job ad?" he asked. She hesitated, then looked directly into his eyes for the first time. "We read your networks, we follow your signals. Most humans speak of trade, war, power. But your words were different. Honest work, meals, payment. It felt safe, it felt human." The man blinked. He hadn't thought much when writing those words, yet to her they had meant hope. "You risked everything for a small ad?" he asked. She gave a weak smile. Bitter but sincere. "When you have nothing, even a single word of kindness can be enough to risk your life." The man had no answer. His heart felt heavy. The baby stirred then, making small noises. The mother hummed softly, that strange melody again. It was soothing, alien yet warm. The child settled, clutching her hand even in sleep. The man listened, and for the first time, he felt something strange too. A pull in his chest, a whisper of responsibility. He had lived alone, with no family, no ties, no one to depend on him. But now, in his small, quiet house, sat a mother and her child, carrying secrets, scars, and danger, and somehow, he knew they were his to protect whether he liked it or not. As the fire burned low and the night stretched deeper, the man's thoughts turned again to the creak in the hallway, to the shadows outside, to the way the woman's fear never left her eyes. The house was no longer just his home, it was a hiding place, a fragile wall against something waiting in the dark. And in that silence, The man understood one thing clearly: whatever hunted her would soon come hunting him too. The house was quiet but not peaceful. The silence pressed heavy against the walls like something waiting outside. The man sat near the dying fire, a wrench still in his hand. His eyes kept drifting to the window, to the curtain that swayed slightly in the cold draft. The alien mother had finally placed her baby in a small basket the man found. The child slept soundly, tiny breaths rising and falling. Yet even in sleep, its small hands twitched. As if sensing danger in the air, the mother did not rest. She sat with her back straight, eyes sharp. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the firelight. She looked less like a guest and more like a soldier keeping watch. The man rubbed his tired eyes. "You need sleep," he muttered. She shook her head. "If I close my eyes, they will come." "They always come," he frowned, wanting to argue. But a sudden sound cut him short, distant at first, then clearer, slow footsteps crunching against gravel. Deliberate and heavy, the man froze. His grip tightened around the wrench. The alien mother's eyes widened. She clutched the edge of the chair, her whole body trembling. "They found us," she whispered. The words filled the room like ice water. The man moved quickly. He turned off the small lamp, leaving only the faint glow of the fire. Shadows swallowed the room. The baby stirred but did not wake, he whispered. "Stay here," and crept toward the front door. His heart pounded so loudly he feared whoever was outside would hear it. Through a narrow gap in the curtain, he looked. The street lay in darkness, empty but not still. A black vehicle sat parked a few houses down. Its lights were off, but he could see movement, figures stepping out, tall, broad, moving with slow confidence. The man cursed under his breath. These were not neighbors, not police, these were hunters. The mother appeared at his side, silent as a shadow, her eyes burned with terror. "Don't open," she whispered. "If they see us, they will not leave." The man turned. "Then what do they want?" Her lips trembled. "Me and him." She glanced toward the baby. "They will not stop until they take us back." The man's stomach twisted. He had let them in without knowing their burden. Now their burden stood outside his door. The footsteps grew closer. A knock thundered against the wood. Deep and commanding, the man nearly jumped. "Open," a voice growled, low and rough, not human. The accent was strange, stretched and sharp. "We know she is inside," the mother gasped, clutching the man's arm. Her nails dug into his sleeve. "Don't answer." "Please," the man's mind raced. He could stay silent, hope they left, but the pounding came again. Louder, shaking the frame, the baby woke and cried. A sharp sound that cut through the silence like glass. The mother's face turned white. "No, no, no," she whispered, rocking the child desperately to calm him. The man took a deep breath, forcing calm. He whispered to her. "Hide." She hesitated, but when his eyes locked on hers, she obeyed. She darted to the back room, clutching the baby close. The man heard the old floor creak as she disappeared into the shadows. Another knock shook the door. The voice outside hissed, "You protect a thief, human, hand her over, and we will leave you whole." The man's jaw tightened, his hand tightened on the wrench. His heart screamed to stay quiet, to let them pass. But something else, something deeper, told him no. He had seen the scars on her arms. He had seen the hunger in the child's eyes. He would not betray them. He raised his voice, steady and firm. "There's no one here, leave." Silence. A long pause that made his skin crawl. Then laughter, low, cruel, echoing in the night. "You think you can hide her from us?" The voice sneered. "We marked her, she belongs to us." The man's blood ran cold. He remembered the scars on her arms, the strange patterns. They were not just wounds, they were brands, ownership burned into flesh. Another pounding hit the door, harder this time. Splinters cracked from the frame. The man backed away. His mind raced. He was one man with a wrench against creatures that moved like soldiers. Yet his chest burned with something stronger than fear. He turned to the hallway where the mother hid. He whispered so quietly she might not even hear. "Stay strong." Then he faced the door, heart hammering, waiting for it to break. The night was no longer quiet, the hunters were here, and the small house was now a battleground, and in that moment, the man knew whatever these creatures were, whatever power they held, they had made one mistake. They had come to his home. The door shook under another heavy blow. Wood cracked. Dust fell from the frame. The man held his wrench tight, sweat sliding down his face. His heart pounded like a drum. From the back room, the baby cried louder. The alien mother's voice rose in soft, trembling whispers trying to calm her child, but the cries carried through the house. Echoing into the night outside, the hunters laughed. "She is here," one of them growled. "The mark calls to us." "We smell her fear," the man's chest burned. He had never fought anyone stronger than a drunken neighbor. Yet here he stood, facing creatures that moved like predators. He had no weapon but a tool, no shield but his will. The door cracked again, a wide splinter running down the middle. He knew the next hit would break it. He turned, rushing down the hallway to where the mother crouched, baby clutched tight against her chest. "We can't stay here," he said. His voice was sharp, urgent. "They'll break through?" The alien mother looked up, her silver eyes wide with terror. "If they take us, they will not leave you alive," the man forced calm. "Then we don't let them take you." Her lips trembled. She lowered her voice. "You don't understand who they are. They are trackers, slavers, killers. They own the mines, the colonies, they own me." She pulled back her sleeve, showing the scar again. "This mark is their chain." The man swallowed hard, his stomach twisted with rage. "Not anymore," he said. The door slammed again. This time the top hinge snapped. The house shuddered, the baby screamed. The man grabbed a backpack from the corner and shoved bread and water inside. "We're leaving through the back." The mother hesitated. "They'll hunt us, they never stop." The man met her eyes. "Then let them hunt, but they won't win." He pulled her to her feet, guiding her toward the kitchen door. But as they reached it, glass shattered from the front of the house. The hunters had broken a window, shadows poured in, tall, broad, their movements sharp and cruel. "Run," the man whispered. Pushing the mother ahead, the back door creaked open, the cold night rushing in. They slipped into the darkness of the yard. The man pulled the door shut behind them, but a heavy crash followed. The front door had finally fallen. Voices echoed inside the house, harsh and guttural. "Find her!" The mother stumbled as they ran across the yard, clutching her baby close. Her breath came ragged, her steps uneven. She had traveled far already, and her strength was fading. The man stayed at her side, holding her arm when she faltered. He guided her toward the trees at the edge of the property. Shadows swallowing them, behind them the hunters moved fast. Their boots struck the ground like hammers. Their glowing eyes scanned the night. "They see heat," the mother gasped. "They will track us," the man thought quickly. He had no weapons, but he had lived in these woods as a boy. He knew the streams, the old sheds, the broken paths. He grabbed her hand. "This way." They slipped into a narrow path between trees, branches whipping against their faces. The baby cried, small and sharp. The mother tried to hush him, but fear made her voice shake. The hunters' voices grew louder. "Closer. She is near, don't let them escape." The man's lungs burned as he pulled them deeper into the woods. His mind raced every second, the danger closed in every second. The choice grew clearer. Fight or fall. Suddenly the mother stopped. She pressed her back to a tree, holding the baby close. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "You must know," she whispered, "if you stay with me, your life ends here." The man turned, gripping his wrench, his chest heaved. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. "If I send you away, I won't have a life at all." Her lips parted in shock, her eyes softened for just a second. But the moment broke as a beam of red light cut through the trees. Sweeping across the ground, the hunters were here. The man grabbed her hand again, dragging her toward a shallow stream. "In the water," he ordered. "It will hide your heat." They stepped in. Cold biting at their skin, the mother gasped, clutching the baby tighter. The child whimpered but pressed close to her chest. They moved quietly through the shallow stream, steps muffled by water. The hunters' lights passed close, voices growling. "They were here, I smell her scent." The man held his breath. His heart thundered. He could feel the mother trembling beside him. Her baby pressed against her chest, silent at last as if sensing the danger. The hunters paused on the bank, their glowing eyes scanning the trees. One of them bent low, fingers brushing the ground. "Tracks," he hissed, "but they end here." The man pulled the mother deeper downstream. Slow, careful steps. His chest ached from holding his breath. His grip on the wrench was so tight his knuckles turned white. Minutes felt like hours, but at last the hunters moved on, disappearing deeper into the forest. Their voices faded into the night. The man exhaled sharply, pulling the mother onto the bank. Both collapsed to the ground, soaked and shivering. The baby cried softly but alive. The mother looked at him, eyes wide with disbelief. "You saved us," she whispered. The man shook his head. "Not yet." They'll be back. He stared into the dark forest, his jaw set. This was only the beginning. And in the shadows, far behind them, faint red lights glowed again, proof that the chase was far from over. The forest was silent again. But it was the kind of silence that pressed hard against the skin. The man sat against a fallen log, his chest rising and falling in sharp breaths. The alien mother clutched her baby close, rocking gently, though her own hands trembled. "They'll come back," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "They never give up." The man wiped water from his face. His clothes clung heavy against his skin. "Then we'll be ready," he said firmly. His grip tightened on the wrench in his hand. The mother gave him a tired, sad smile. "You are only one human." "They are many." The man looked at her. His jaw set. "You're not weak either, I saw it. You've survived worse." She lowered her eyes, silent for a moment. Then she reached into the small pouch tied to her waist. From it she pulled tiny bundles of dried herbs, glowing faintly in the dark. Their scent filled the air, sharp and burning. The man frowned. "What is that?" Her lips curved in a small, bitter smile. What they thought was only cooking. She crushed one between her fingers. A thin smoke rose, and where it touched the damp wood, the bark hissed, leaving a dark burn. The man's eyes widened. "That's not food." Her gaze turned hard. "In the camps, they made me cook for them. I learned to hide small secrets, spices that burn, powders that blind, flavors that kill." The baby whimpered, and she rocked him gently, her voice softening. "They thought I was only a slave in a kitchen, but the kitchen was my fire." The man stared at the faintly glowing herbs. A strange hope lit in his chest. "Then we use it." She looked at him, surprised. "You trust me?" He nodded. "I let you in, didn't I? Let's make them regret stepping into my woods." The mother's eyes gleamed in the dark. For the first time, fear was not the only thing in them. There was resolve. Together they moved to an old hunting shed nearby. Its roof sagged, its walls leaned, but it offered shelter. The man set down his wrench, clearing space on the workbench. The mother spread her herbs and powders, her hands steady, precise. She mixed crushed leaves with drops of water from the stream, forming a thick paste that glowed faintly blue. "This will burn like fire when touched," she explained. Then she pulled out another small pouch of fine dust. She sprinkled it in the air, and the man coughed immediately. His throat burning, she quickly covered it again. "This blinds them only for moments, but long enough to run." The man coughed again, his eyes watering. "Remind me never to eat your food," he muttered. She gave a short laugh, strange, fragile, but real. The baby stirred in his basket but did not cry, as if sensing the shift in his mother's spirit. The man watched her work, mixing powders, shaping small clay jars with wet earth, sealing them with leaves. "You're turning spices into weapons," he said. Half in awe, the mother's hands moved quickly. "Food is life, but it can also be death. They forced me to cook so their soldiers would stay strong. I learned to make the same food into their weakness." The man shook his head. "They thought you were just a cook." Her eyes hardened. They were wrong. Hours passed. The shed filled with strange smells, sharp, bitter, sweet, burning. The man gathered sticks and bottles, filling them with her mixtures. His hands were clumsy, but he followed her instructions carefully. When the work was done, they had a small pile of makeshift weapons, hidden in baskets and jars. It wasn't much, but it was more than just fear. The man looked at her, his chest rising with determination. "Next time they come, we won't just run." The mother nodded, clutching her baby close. "Next time, they will taste what they made me." As if answering, the night stirred. The distant hum of engines echoed through the trees, red lights flickering between branches. The hunters were returning. The man picked up one of the jars, its surface warm in his hand, his jaw tightened. "Then let's welcome them to dinner." The alien mother stood beside him, her baby on her back, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She held another jar, her fingers steady, her voice low. "They called me a cook. Tonight I will cook fire." The shed trembled as the sound of heavy steps approached. Shadows stretched across the broken walls. The man and the mother exchanged a look, strangers no longer, bound by survival and choice outside. The hunters spread through the forest, their voices sharp, cruel, confident. "She cannot hide, we own her." But inside the shed the fire was already waiting, hidden in jars disguised as food ready to explode. The man tightened his grip on the jar. His heart pounded. His voice was steady as he whispered, "Then let's make them choke on their own hunt." The mother's eyes blazed, and for the first time she almost smiled. And when the door of the shed creaked open, the hunters found not prey, but a cook and a human, ready to turn the night into fire. The shed shook as the hunters stepped closer, their boots thudding like hammers on the earth. The man held the clay jar tight in his hand. His knuckles white. Beside him, the alien mother stood tall, her baby tied to her back with strips of cloth. Her other hand gripped another jar filled with burning powder. The door creaked, slow and heavy. A dark shape filled the frame, red eyes glowing in the night. The creature growled, its teeth sharp, its voice a low hiss. "You cannot hide. She is ours." The man didn't wait. He hurled the jar with all his strength. It shattered against the hunter's chest. Exploding into fire and smoke, the creature screamed, stumbling back as flames licked across its armor. The forest lit up with sudden light. Shadows danced wildly. More hunters rushed forward, their growls echoing. "Now!" The mother shouted, her voice sharp as steel. She smashed her jar against the floor. A wave of smoke rose, thick and choking. The hunters coughed, blinded, their eyes watering. The man swung his wrench, striking one across the jaw. The crack echoed through the shed. Another charged, but slipped in the burning paste smeared across the ground. His body slammed into the wall, bringing the shed's weak roof crashing down. The baby cried. But the mother's voice rose above the chaos. Calm and steady, she shifted her weight, one arm holding her child, the other hurling another clay jar into the crowd. It burst, filling the air with sparks and sharp burning smells. The hunters roared, angry and confused. They had come expecting prey, but instead they found fire. The man fought with all his strength, his arms aching, his lungs burning from the smoke. He swung, blocked, dodged. Each strike of his wrench echoed with desperation and rage. For a moment he thought it would end there, crushed under claws and teeth, but then he saw her, silver skin glowing in the flames, eyes fierce, moving with precision. She was not just a mother, not just a runaway cook. She was a warrior in her own way. Turning her suffering into weapons, together, they fought as if they had always stood side by side. Finally, the hunters began to fall back, coughing, stumbling, blinded by smoke and flames. One shouted in their strange tongue, "Retreat! Not worth the fire." In moments the forest fell quiet again. The last red eyes faded into the distance, leaving only smoke, fire, and the sound of heavy breathing. The man dropped to his knees, his chest heaving, his arms shook, the wrench slipping from his hand. The fight was over for now. The alien mother stood beside him, her baby clinging to her back. The child was crying but alive. She bent down, gently placing a hand on the man's shoulder. Her eyes softened. "You saved us," she whispered. He shook his head, his throat tight. "We saved each other." For a long moment, they stayed there in silence, broken wood and smoke around them, a strange calm settling over the wreckage. Finally, the mother spoke again, her voice trembling but strong. "You had no reason to fight for me, no reason to risk your life for my child. Why?" The man lifted his head, meeting her gaze. His voice was quiet but steady. "Because no one should face the dark alone. Not you, not him, not anyone." Her eyes filled with tears, silver drops that caught the light of the dying fire. She nodded slowly. "Then maybe we are not alone anymore." They left the ruined shed as dawn broke over the trees. The sky glowed pink and gold. The air was cold, but it carried the promise of a new day. The man walked with the baby in his arms, giving the mother a chance to rest. The child's tiny hand gripped his shirt, refusing to let go. It was such a small touch, but it felt heavier than any chain. The mother walked beside him, her shoulders no longer bent with fear. For the first time, her steps were lighter. Her voice was soft but sure. "You wanted a cook," she said with a faint smile. "Instead, you found me," the man laughed. "Tired but warm. And maybe I found a family too." The words hung between them, simple yet powerful. The mother's eyes widened, then softened. Her smile grew fragile but real. As they reached the edge of the forest, the man looked back at the smoke rising from the shed, the place where they had turned fear into fire. He knew the hunters would return someday, stronger, angrier. But he also knew something else. He was no longer just one man. He was protector, father, partner in survival, and together, they were more than prey. The alien mother shifted closer, her voice a whisper carried by the morning wind. "Maybe this was the home we were searching for." The man looked at her, at the baby in his arms, and nodded. "Then let's build it. Together." And as the first light of the sun touched their faces, they walked forward. Not fugitives, not strangers, but something new, a family forged in fire, stepping into a beginning they never expected, but one they would fight to protect.